Estamos en otro capítulo de la Entrevista Educativa, este espacio que hemos creado en Educar Chile para poder sacarle partido a nuestras visitas internacionales y también a los intelectuales de la educación en Chile. La idea es poder conversar con ellos y poder saber qué es lo que piensan respecto a la educación en el mundo, de tal manera de tener consejos que puedan ser muy útiles para nosotros y nuestra educación. En este caso tenemos una invitada de lujo, ella es Marlene Scardamalia. Marlene Scardamalia es una profesora de la Universidad de Toronto que ha dirigido durante muchos años el Instituto de Innovación y Tecnología. Y en ese rol vamos a hablar con ella, que estuvo de paso en Chile a propósito de ser una de las keynote speakers, de las personas más importantes que habló en la conferencia de ICSEI. Vamos a hablar respecto de estos temas. How are you, Marlene?
I'm fine.
Well, we can begin the discussion about maybe your view about innovation in education. What is your view about what is in innovation in education and what is their importance?
Well, I came across a phrase from Peter Drucker that I just loved immediately. He says, innovation must be part and parcel of the ordinary. And I thought that's just so great, because I think in education we think of higher order skills and innovation as what you do at the end of the line. And I think it's why we have so few innovators, people considered to be innovators in society, because we do consider it to be done at the end of education. I think it should be done from the very beginning and take advantage of kids' creative work with ideas and bring them center front into education.
You think that innovation is something, if I understand well, that is disseminated throughout all the system, that they have a lot of teachers that innovate, they have a lot of principals that innovate every day. You don't think that is a specific activity for some expert of institution expert on education, on innovation?
That's the state I believe we need to get to, is where it is so integral to how we work with students, how we work with each other, that we're innovating education. We know that we can do better every year. We're acting like a progressive science that just says, however we taught last year, we're going to do better next year. And that takes innovation, constant innovation. And so teachers innovating, students innovating, policymakers expecting innovation and bringing it center front into education is what I believe is absolutely essential.
Michael Fullan told the other day that innovation and improvement must be seen as some of linked activities. Do you agree with this vision of innovation? That is not innovation for innovation, but is innovation linked with improvement?
I think I really believe the kind of knowledge innovation that we're talking about will drive improvement. Many people actually feel that education doesn't know how to do well enough what it's already set to do, and so innovation is not what education needs. Innovation is what would happen after we actually get the maximum out of what we already know how to do well in education. I think that I'd like to flip that around and say, if you think about creative work with ideas, sustained creative work with ideas, where you actually know you can improve things and you work towards that improvement, that gives meaning to the basics. It's what makes you communicate with a kind of effectiveness and passion. For young students, every ounce of experience we have is when they can advance their ideas and they discover other people are interested in their ideas. It's like amazing to them, and I think it's a force that will drive improvement. So the notion that improvement is one set of capabilities and innovation needs to have an equal amount of time. My sense is innovation could be the driver for the improvement, and we're missing that driver.
That is a fantastic view. And a very important thing for us, for Chileans, when the type of challenges that we have is about what is you are thinking about learning. And you have talked and you have written a lot of papers about a sort of criticism in terms of the paradigm of learning that which prevails in the education now. What is your criticism about that?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say it's so much a criticism as this is where I do think a balance, that education was built for learning. And if you take learning to be, here's our cultural heritage, here's what is known, and we need to pass that on to the next generation. So that's learning. We want to advance the ideas of students. We want them to know the great riches that we have already in society. That's one facet of what education has to do. But in this century, the notion that students also need to learn to create knowledge. And I think this is the part that says it's not just knowledge that already exists that they've got to internalize. They've actually got to create new knowledge. And so the notion that right now learning takes all of the space and creating new knowledge gets none of the space. I used to, when I started off on this, think that if innovation just had 2% of the space, I'd be happy. And now I've watched schools where the students from early kindergarten on are trying to advance their ideas. And I realize we are getting more of the basics advanced more quickly through bringing this in at an earlier age. So I mean, certainly they need to learn their cultural heritage. They need to learn all of what is currently in the curriculum. I just think that it's really critical not to have that consume all of the educational time, and to have creative work with ideas become so ever present in how they work that it actually will drive learning. So learning is a really important byproduct of creative work with ideas. It's not oppositional.
And your view, you think that your view about this idea that education now in the 21st century is very important, this aspect, this dimension of create knowledge. You link your ideas with others' idea of other educational thinkers. You think that this idea have some root in the educational ideologies or theories that you think that are linked? I don't know, constructivism,
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think without a doubt the whole constructivist movement has been a movement that said, one needs to appreciate the extent to which the students must construct their own ideas. That is, there is no such thing as handing somebody an idea. They've got to live it. They've got to experience it. And Michael Fullan, I think, very justly said he and I actually share this, the word innovation makes people think not of knowledge that works for you, but some bright new discovery that people find it hard to believe that students are capable of. And he was saying, as you talk about creative work with ideas, I think you're closer to the knowledge that works. And so the term innovation might in fact not be the best term for this notion of sustained creative work with ideas. But I think that this notion of being able to take an idea, advance it, work in a community where you can depend on other people to say, I don't actually think it works that way, or well, what's your evidence? So that work with ideas becomes as much a part of you as playing with actual objects. You work ideas and you improve ideas, and that's the part that I think is part of constructivist pedagogy for sure. What's different, we've actually even started to distinguish between shallow constructivism and deep constructivism. Shallow constructivism, you construct ideas around anything. Around, if I'm learning the ideas of Einstein, I need to reconstruct those ideas for myself. The notion, though, deep constructivism, the notion that I need to actually generate new knowledge in society, that's constructivist too, but it's deep constructivism in that I don't have all the base of knowledge given to me by somebody else about which I've got to reconstruct. I've got to learn that, plus I've got to create something new. So it's constructivist for sure. It has its deep roots in constructivist pedagogy. It is a constructivist act. It just takes very deep constructivism.
In your view, you use the idea to reinforce this idea of the new type of education in terms of to replace tasks by ideas. This is a good formula to summarize in simple terms.
Right. Yeah, I think the notion that one always is dealing with tasks and activities and ideas. So it's not an either or, but what's at the center. So if you bring ideas to the center, oftentimes you can't complete a task as efficiently as you wanted to, because in the course of trying to complete that task, a new idea comes. Now, if you always say, nope, no time for that new idea, you're never going to dig deeply into ideas. If you believe ideas should be at the center, you're going to give more room for those new ideas that come in. Take you a little bit off course with where you were headed, but also take you deeper. And so this need for a balance, that instead of tasks, I think students just come to see those tasks and activities as that's their schoolwork. That's what work is about. That's what school is about. But they don't know the deeper objectives, why they're doing those. They're not privy to the large set of ideas that come behind that. And so the notion that their ideas are really meaningful, and in fact they will learn better if you take advantage of their ideas. What are they thinking about that is keeping them from understanding what we want them to understand? Well, if you understand that and put the two together, you're going to get a much more powerful. So it's the essence is, I think, instead of tasks and activities being at the absolute center of what we do, students' ideas should be at the center. In all cases, we have to deal with tasks, activities, and ideas, but let ideas take the center stage.
Maybe one of the barriers to do that, at least I think in terms of the Chilean system, is all the standardized tests and the form of evaluation and assessment. This is the form of assessment that in general are focusing this possibility of construction and create knowledge. What is your vision about that? You need to change the form of assessment to be coherent with this new vision of education? You have experience about that?
Yeah, actually so much of the creative work with ideas is in the discourse. It's how people talk with one another. It's how they exchange ideas. So you can now capture discourse electronically, much as we are in this interview, in online environments. And in that discourse, you get the history of the advance of ideas. Students themselves can see when their ideas are advancing. Teachers, anybody can see the powerful new tools that are available to us, because we can do what they call semantic analysis. We can, if I would like you to learn about gravity and you never use the word gravity, there's a pretty good chance you're not deeply involved in the content of gravity. So the notion that the semantic analyses can show when your vocabulary is growing, how you're using these ideas. So new tools. The difference is, instead of assessment externally driven and outside of the process, we can now bring it into the process, and in seconds, people can see the course of the development of their ideas. So I think new assessment is critical. But I want to stress that as best we know, the process we're talking about, I say as best we know because we only have limited data sets, but the best predictor of doing well on standardized achievement tests is sustained creative work with ideas.
And that is important too.
So I think it's very important. It gets you more mileage for what education is trying to do, and it gets you a whole lot more because it gets you knowledge creation.
We have a lot of theories in terms of the visible learning. And the idea of also that to be visible the learning, to talk about the learning, that the students know exactly what is happening with their learning. You think that that is involved also with this possibility of a new kind of vision, of engagement of the students in their process?
I don't, you know, in order to do, again, sustained creative work with idea, you've got to take responsibility for idea advancement. So if the teacher is always the person who has to tell you what to do next, if the only way you can move forward is dependent on something external to you to move you forward, you're not getting the internal controls that you need to say, you know, I don't understand this. This is confusing. And instead of treating that as a negative, the notion that students could say to you, I don't understand this, this is confusing me, is actually to be celebrated. This is one of the forces that help us understand what it is that's confusing and how to move forward. So I think that students simply cannot take control. They can't take responsibility for knowledge advancement if they don't understand the expectations and they don't have some sense of when they're advancing and when they're not advancing. And what we keep finding is if improving ideas is what they're trying to do, not pass the test, not get this job done, but improving ideas, they can be very responsible. Like grade 1 kids can tell you, I'm stuck. I haven't advanced this idea for days. So they have the internal monitoring systems. I think we haven't called on those to be exercised much in education.
And another thing that is important in your work and also in your work with your colleague and husband, collaborator, is all the introduction of technology in the classrooms and in the education. You think that this is a new opportunity that really we have in the 21st century that is absolutely can change and can be a revolution for education? What is about your vision about the real hope that we must have in this and these new tools?
Well, you know, we started in 1983, built the first environment, and the reason for that was, well, the first reason was I was teaching a huge university class with 375 students, and I wanted to get more interaction, and I couldn't figure out how to get more interaction except for, I thought, the technology. But this notion that the teacher does not have to be at the center of every action, and students can interact with one another and can collaborate very effectively, I think the technology gives us many, many more ways of addressing that. It makes this assessment that's internal to what's happening very possible. It allows us to design scaffolds for processes. It wasn't even thought that students had capacity that get uncovered. Now, you know, in the history of science, of course, you know, people have always generated ideas and they didn't have technology to do it. But I think if we want to make it commonplace, then thinking of our technologies as building technologies that makes the process of expertise and innovation itself transparent, turns it over to the users instead of this mysterious process that people don't know about. So I think that designing technology for expertise and innovation, as opposed for online courses, for like project management, all of these are functions, but technology to advance ideas and sustain creative work with ideas with these assessment tools built in, I think is a huge advantage and very exciting.
And you have some, what I can say, some kind of, also some kind of things that you can see bad alerts in terms of the bad uses of technology. Because we show that we have so many ideas that this new technology can be so revolutionary that maybe they have some alerts that is important to communicate in this topic.
Right. Alan Kay, who is a fellow at Apple, and he put this so succinctly and nicely. He says, we always reinvent the old with the new. It doesn't matter what new invention there is. We're so accustomed to our old patterns, we relive the old with the new. And I think the other thing is we routines, we layer them on, even though something isn't requiring a routine. So for instance, the scaffolds we build to get the high-level knowledge process, we make them customizable, we don't make them mandatory, we make them very flexible so they're opportunistically used as they need to be used. People require the students, first do this, do 3 of these, then I want you to do this. So it's taking something built for the flexibility and opportunism and dynamic interaction of people, and it's restructured to be rigid, fragmented, and serial. So I think you can shift anything around. It's really bringing the mindset of the power of creative ideas and letting that blossom, as opposed to translating it into something that, I guess I'm just saying that I think you can turn anything into something that isn't effective and make it counterproductive. I'm not sure it's so unique to technology. It is to any new system of exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Marlene Scardamalia, for all this, the pleasure and the honor to talk with you and to have this dialogue. And maybe the last question, that is the question that we have for all the people that have in your seat, is for us, for the Chilean education. What is your advice? If you can say one advice for us, what is your advice for us?
Well, first I have to say I've enjoyed immensely what I've learned about what you have been doing to make advances in education, and I think the speed of change is very much traceable, it looks to me, from these innovative work that's being done at the ministerial level. As I looked at the classroom management work that was going on, I couldn't help but think, I wonder how much of that classroom management is actually looking at how people are managing the work between teachers and students, and the extent to which student capabilities are being maximized in that process. So I couldn't tell from what I've learned so far. But my sense is that looks at how the students are performing in these different schools that are achieving more and less, and getting a closer look at what does it look like when students are dynamically advancing with ideas and teachers are actually supporting that process. If there could be some kind of look at that process within, it seems to me that's part of the classroom management framework that I heard presented this morning. But I was very much thinking that would be a very fascinating research initiative, and would also, I think, give a real concrete look at this ability, the capacity to use powerful discourse between students and teachers and students as yet another driver of the advances that you're already getting.
Thank you for your advice. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Thank you, Marlene Scardamalia. Bueno, y con esto terminamos una nueva sesión de la entrevista educativa.